Hey folks, welcome to the Archetype of Man channel. My name is Nick. For my returning viewers, nice to see you again. For new viewers, welcome to the channel. Today is a day I'm very excited about. I've been using this. This is my Ruger American Ranch in 300 Blackout. It is unloaded and clear. I've been using this for deer hunting this year. I'm in North Georgia. Our deer aren't all that big. 300 Blackout is plenty sufficient. That became very clear that it was sufficient this year because my third season hunting, I finally got a deer. We're not here to talk about this rifle, although it has been great. It's a little worse for wear. It's been dragged through the woods and brush and all that good stuff. We're here to talk about the optic. This is the DNT Optics ThermNight. This crazy sci-fi looking scope is a multispectral scope. It does thermal, it does night vision, and it does daytime, and some other cool stuff that we're going to get into. So this was sent out to me from the folks at DNT Optics. There's no financial incentive, paid review, anything like that. The product they sent out to me to review, and at this point in time, I feel comfortable giving you that review. I've been using the scope now for about 2 months, and by using it, I mean everything from shooting it out here on the range in daytime mode to hunting with it and playing around with it at night and things like that. I'm very impressed with its features. So really at this point, the features can be summed up simply by the inside of the box that it comes in. That pretty much sums it all up. One device, endless possibilities. This is a battery operated, uses 18650 flat top batteries, which are convenient, especially if you're into vaping. Then you probably already have some laying around. It thermal, night vision. It has ballistic calculations. It has a built-in infrared illuminator that you can turn all the way off if you would like to. One of the drawbacks to thermal optics in the past has been that if you put a thermal optic on the gun, that's all it can do is thermal. So if you wanted to shoot paper targets in broad daylight, thermal's probably not going to get you there unless the paper has some sort of heat signature. B8 repair centers actually show up in the thermal because the black center part pops a little bit hotter with the sun hitting it, at least outdoors. I haven't tried it indoors. And obviously if you painted your steel targets black, you might get some thermal differentiation between the ambient temperature and the target. But I digress. Thermal used to be something that only worked with thermal difference between target and ambient environment. Now you have the option to do thermal, you have the option to do night vision, and you have the option to treat it like a regular scope. It's a digital scope, it's not traditional glass and things like that, but even that has some merits. So looking at the scope here, we have a few different buttons in our controls here. You've got 5 buttons here. You got your power button or sleep button. Once you power the optic all the way on, you can quick press it and it'll go to sleep. I've been using that feature a lot when I'm hunting because it does use battery. It's a very powerful device, runs through battery. I can put it to sleep and then it sits there until I see something, and then I can quickly tap it, comes right back up. You've got your settings button, your video button, which we're going to get to because that is one of my favorite things about this optic, was that it captured some really cool stuff for me on board. You have brightness. This also controls your IR illumination when you're in night vision mode. This button here switches you between night and day. Over here, this is your laser rangefinder. This very useful tool. And then this switches your picture-in-picture or mode. So as you'll see from some of the onboard footage that I will show you, the capabilities are crazy. You have your magnification adjustment here. You have focus refinement here for your thermal. This up here is your day and night module up top. So you have your focus there, and then out front here is your focus ring for the thermal. It sounds overwhelming, but I promise you it's actually very intuitive to use. It does also come with this eyepiece which screws in here. I haven't really been using it. I'm going to be doing some night predator hunting soon for coyotes over at my mom's, and I'll probably use this then. I haven't been using it, works fine without it. I do wear glasses when I am hunting, so this has worked fine with that, in case you're curious. Also, while we're here and it's in frame, Epic water filters. If you didn't see the main video I did on it, you you should check them out. There'll be links in the description. Stay hydrated. That's great. I can get any freshwater source and drink it safely without risk of gastrointestinal distress. But back to the ThermNight here. Most things in life, there are pros and cons. Now, I want to caveat that by saying when I say cons in this case, it's more of a consideration, not a con as in a bad aspect. Just something I would take into consideration. It's not a ding against the optic because, well, I don't really know of any way around it. So the weight is the first consideration I would make. It's just a hair under 23 ounces, 22.8 ounces. That's heavy for an optic, you know, especially on a hunting gun. This gun is extremely lightweight. Ruger American Ranch, even with the Omega 9K, you're looking at it as I hunt with it. That was not an insignificant addition in weight. However, this is not just your standard, you know, I think I had a 1 to 6x low power variable on it before. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison. That optic was lighter. That optic also didn't give me the magnification that this gives me. 3 to 12x in thermal and 5 to 20x in day and night. So I already got a lot more magnification power. It didn't give me thermal capability to be able to pick heat signatures out. It didn't give me night capability. So yes, it's more weight. It does add some heft to the rifle. But again, you're getting a lot for that trade-off. The other thing is batteries. This gets about 5 hours battery life based on my testing, maybe a little less in cold temps. I think I got 3.5 hours yesterday out of one battery. To be fair though, it was 17 degrees, which is cold for us. The battery, swapping the battery out, super simple. You have this, just unscrew this, and then your battery comes out. Like I said, it uses flat top 18650 rechargeable batteries. So here's one here. So then you can just put your fresh battery in. Pretty simple. Make sure you tighten that cap all the way up, and that will keep anything from flickering under recoil or anything like that. There's an O-ring on there. This optic is waterproof, so that is good as well, especially if you're going to use it for hunting, because we can't always control the weather in the stand. Now, also while we're talking about power, go over to the other side of the optic. You have this, which is a Type-C port. Now, it does not offer onboard charging for the battery, but if you're in need of supplemental power, say you forgot your battery case, but you have a battery bank, or you're doing a long stationary hunt, you can take a power bank and run a cable in there and power the optic that way. Might be a good option. Like I said though, it doesn't charge the battery on board, it just powers the optic. Still not bad though. I always take a battery bank with me in the woods. Might come in handy if I end up stranded, need to charge my phone, flashlight, power my optic. There you go. You do have a section of rail over here, Picatinny rail. I haven't done anything with it yet. I may attach a red dot. I was hiking in the other day, came face to face with a black bear. My optic was off because it was still dark. Fortunately, I carry a sidearm, and I'll have another video coming on that here soon. So that worked out okay. If I'd have had like a small micro red dot 507C or Gideon Optics Alpha or something, I could have very easily canted the rifle over and shot if I had to. But no harm, no foul. You have that there if you want to use it for that. You might want to use it for an infrared illuminator, a laser maybe. I don't know. The cool thing is it's there. It looks like you could take it off if you wanted to. There's 2 screws holding that on there. I haven't messed with it. It did come with the mount, this kind of cantilevered 0 MOA mount. It came with it. It's worked fine, no issues. There's 4 screws that attach to the optic body, and then 3 bolts that go on your Picatinny rail. It hasn't budged, hasn't lost zero. Boringly reliable. So I also want to state that this optic will always have a unique and special place in my heart. If you followed the channel, you know that I got into hunting a couple years ago and hadn't really had much luck at it. For those new to the channel, I'm a newbie in the world of deer hunting. Went with a buddy, got hooked, and kind of burned myself out the last 2 seasons. This is my 3rd season. There was a lot to learn. Been doing it on public land, which has its own challenges. Everything from finding sign, but then it was old sign. Anyway, it's been a long road to finally connect with a deer. Well, I did it. This is my 4-point. I just got this Euro mount back today. This was a long time coming. Took a lot of work to finally get one of these to walk in where I had a shot. The crazy thing is, not only will I have that memory, I set the scope to record. I was hunting with that setup. I was in my stand, and the deer came in. He kind of knew something was up and turned and walked around me. Fortunately, I'm right-handed, so a left-handed shot out of the tree stand is actually where I prefer to take the shot rather than straight on. I prefer to take it over to the side like that. But he got into some pines that were about yay tall. Deer blend in pretty good anyways. He was moving in and through the pines. The thermal on the scope, for those of you saying, well, you know, thermal won't help me deer hunting. The picture-in-picture, where I had the thermal in the small square on the scope and then the daytime in the main, helped me track his heat signature through the pine so I wouldn't lose him. Figured out kind of what direction he was going. There was a break, again, using 300 blackout. You know, this isn't a brush buster round by any means. I was using a soft point that I hand loaded, so that was cool too. I waited for an opening in between all that pine undergrowth. He walked in, put the crosshairs right where it needed to be, shot. He went down about 25 yards from where I shot him. Ended up being a perfect double lung and including the top of the heart. And then the work started. But the cool thing is I have that on the scope because it picked up the video. So I'll go ahead and roll that in now. Now I realize this is no Boone and Crockett deer, but to me it is. There was a lot of work involved for me getting to the point where I got this. Our laws here, we get 2 buck tags a year. One of them can be anything with horns basically, and the other has to be at least 4 points on one side or a 15-inch outside spread. So I'm still waiting for my second buck tag. I haven't really seen anything with 4 points on one side on public land. I saw a 6-point that probably had the 16-inch or a 15-inch outside spread, but I didn't have a good shot on him. For some weird reason, all that effort to get the 4-pointer I got, now I'm covered up in them every time I go out. So here's a couple clips that you can enjoy of deer that I've picked up on the thermal from the stand. Obviously I didn't shoot them, but still neat to catch them on camera. In addition to capturing that moment when I got my first deer on camera, I know exactly how far it was for the shot. Unfortunately, I didn't do it before I shot the deer, but I did it after. It was 67 yards. That's not very far. Some of you guys that live in more open or flat areas are like, well, who's right on you? Well, around here in our terrain, it's very wooded, densely wooded. We just don't get very long shots. So still, that is because this optic has a built-in laser rangefinder. I know I mentioned it briefly, but it's right here. Press this button, it'll range whatever the crosshairs are on. I haven't had to take any long shots yet where I've really needed to know the distance. Everything's mostly been within 100 yards. But I am going to stretch its legs on this rifle, and then I'm also going to put it on my Remington 700 VPR and give it a shot there at some longer distances. That's a 308. So that'll be interesting as well. If you've looked into thermal or night vision at all, you know that these optics are not cheap. When I used to work at Mountain Man Armory, my boss had a Trijicon Patrol IR thermal. I may have done a little bit of footage. If I can, I'll link to that video. That was an $8,000 scope, and all it did was thermal, and it only did white hot or black hot. This scope can do a multitude of things. So not only can this optic do the white hot, black hot, like the Trijicon Patrol IR, it also can do red hot, iron hot, which is, I have it set on red hot, more of a FLIR type thermal imaging. The hotter it is, the brighter the colors. It's easy for my monkey brain to understand that. You have options. Am I claiming that the thermal on the ThermNight is just as good as a Trijicon Patrol IR? Well, I don't know. For me, it may as well be. For my use case, this is perfect. I also have night vision and daytime capability. That's awesome. I can set this on a gun and have it for whatever sort of hunting I want to do. Here in Georgia, it is legal to hunt with that optic. DNR was pretty quick to say, yeah, it's fine to use it, just doesn't change the definition of legal shooting light. So we get 30 minutes before sunrise, 30 minutes after sunset. So it functions like a regular scope if you want it to. It also has the capability to do the thermal picture-in-picture, which helps track heat signatures. I am not the thermal and night vision channel. I told Alex with DNT Optics that before he sent it out, I am not going to be able to go over the sensor specs and why this one's better and that one's better. I am a normal dude that will use it for varminting, deer season, and shooting, just regular shooting. And he said that's fine. That's part of who this is aimed at, is people that maybe are not going to go spend close to 10 grand on a thermal or even 5 grand on night vision. I am not going to get a helmet and PVS 14s and LARP and do all that cool stuff. Nothing wrong if that's what you want to do. That's a lot of reloading components. That's a lot of shooting that I could be doing, or hunting and things like that. That's more time I have to spend away from my family to earn that money. So this covers all my bases for my needs. Can you use it as an observation device? The short answer is yes, but we got to be aware of rule 3, right? We can't point our gun just willy-nilly scanning. Obviously, if we're in a without rule of law situation, maybe things are different, but we're not there. We're talking about today. I can't just go outside and what was that noise and wave my rifle all around my neighbors' houses. And yeah, could you take it off the rifle and do that? Yes, but base magnification for thermal is 3x magnification. Base magnification for night vision is 5x. It's been my experience, and you'll see in some of the clips I've rolled in, when it's not attached to the gun and you're just holding it in your hand, it's a little bit shaky. It's not really what it's designed for. Would it work? Sure, it did. But there is that. Predator hunting, hog hunting, things like that, you typically have a sector of fire. You're watching this field or this location, and that's a little bit different type of scanning. Even when I was hunting my deer, I knew whereabouts he was. I was just trying to figure out what he was hiding behind. There were no other hunters over there. I was 2 miles deep in national forest, which was a fun drag out. There's a lot this optic can do, and it's obvious to me that there was a lot of input from people that actually shoot. This wasn't some software guys just sitting there and saying, we think the market might like. No, this is a real set of features that when I heard about it, I was like, wow, that's awesome. Part of my holdup on thermal and night vision was, well, I didn't really use thermal enough to get a dedicated thermal optic. I didn't really use night vision enough to get a dedicated night vision optic, because then that setup would only be good for night vision or thermal use, and it just wasn't my thing. Combining all the features together like this is perfect. I can use this rifle like a normal rifle for normal target shooting. I can also say, you know what, got a coyote problem at my mom's. I'm going to take that and go. I'm familiar with it. It's easy to gain familiarity. It's one type of battery, whereas the Trijicon Patrol IR, I go back to that one, CR123As, and it didn't get 5 hours battery life. It also didn't have onboard video recording. You had to get this kind of like box that mounted on top of the optic. It had cables, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. This is simple. This is awesome. I can pull the clips off the optic with my phone. I turn the Wi-Fi on the optic. I turn my Wi-Fi connection on my phone on. I sit there, I tell it to download. It's pretty quick. We only recently got internet at the house that is faster than that. So pretty quick. They're on my phone. I can then send them to my computer or transfer them. I've got them. It is, honestly, I am not tech savvy, which is going to be a surprise to some of you since I do YouTube. This has been very easy for me to learn. It just so happened, as I was driving down here today to film this, I was listening to Muffin Top Tactical, a podcast my buddy Chris Lauk does. There'll be a link down in the description. I've been on it a few times. And he had Alex Sansone, also of the Suited Shootist and DNT Optics, on there. And they were talking about this optics. And just to hear the passion in Alex's voice, which Alex is a buddy of mine, that's my relationship there. This is something he's passionate about. This is something that every step of the way, when I've sent him pictures since this was sent out to me, he has been excited about. I did tell him, I said, look, man, I'll take it deer hunting, but here's the thing. I've been, this will be my 3rd deer season. I haven't got a deer. So I can guarantee you I'll take it in the woods. I can't guarantee you that I'll actually shoot a deer. Well, lo and behold, I did. Could I have taken that deer without the ThermNight? Maybe. There's also a good chance that him weaving in and out of those pines, I would have lost him without the thermal. So is it cheating? Well, you be the judge. From where I'm sitting, filled a deer tag, and I got like 70 pounds of meat in the freezer, so I don't look at it as cheating. Unfortunately, the ThermNight will not make you a better shooter. I can't throw that in there. I know it seems like I'm listing all positive things, and that's because my experience with it has been all positive. I have taken it with me to show friends. I've taken it with me to show family. Everybody that has had a chance to look at it likes it. It's funny, I would post a picture of it, because I'm one of the Instagram hunters, right? I'm sitting in the stand, I take a cool picture, the camo, the leaves are brown, the rifle, the optic, and then I put a nice cool filter on it and post it, and people are like, hey man, what is that? Where can I get one? And they're like, you got any problems with it? And I'm like, no, it's been boringly reliable. I was a little nervous about having my hunting optic be something that was dependent on a battery, that had the intrinsic delicacies of electronics. It's been awesome. In cold and wet, a few jars. I haven't like dropped it out of the tree stand or anything, but I do hoist it up, and there's been a few times lowering it down. My hands are cold. Hoist line slips a little bit. It takes a little bump. It's been fine. I've tried to baby it, but take a gun in the woods and hunt with it. Sometimes I get scuffed up and beat up, and so too for the optics. So it's passed my test. I wouldn't hesitate in a heartbeat to recommend them. I am recommending them. DNT Optics actually has released a new product since I've been reviewing this one. It's called the Hydra. If you are more interested in something that you can use as a handheld unit, The Hydra can be used as a standalone thermal optic, handheld monocular type setup for scanning without violating Rule 3, and it can be used as a clip-on, and it will work with existing LPVOs. I don't know too much about how that works. I would get in touch with them, info@dntoptics.com. They'll answer your questions. They've been great. But that's an option. That is thermal only. It doesn't do the night and daytime to my knowledge. They have standard rifle scopes. They've got night vision. They've got thermal. They've got everything all together in the ThermNight. As far as extra battery while you're in the field, is you have 5-hour battery life. I'm not an evening hunter. I can walk in the dark with the best of them. There's something about getting down and hiking out of the woods in the dark that's just weird to me. I don't like it. I'm not afraid to admit that. Morning, I'm fine. It's the walking out in the evening I don't like. So I typically sit pre-rut till about 10:30, 11 o'clock during the rut, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What I found is 1 battery in the gun, 2 spares. This is something I had from back when I was building my own coils and vaping. It's a 2 battery case. Put your 2 batteries in there. It rattles. I don't like that. It makes a lot of noise. This is just a clean, unused, like Kleenex or Puffs or whatever tissue. I just wedge that in there and close it. Now it's quiet. Slip that in my jacket pocket where it can stay nice and warm. I use a little muffler thing with hot hands. Put my hands in when I'm sitting there. That'll go in there if it's extra cold. I could sit in the tree stand, lay my rifle across the front. I use a Summit Goliath SD. Somebody's going to ask. It's my first year in a tree stand too. I've been a little scared of heights the last 2 seasons, so the tree stand helped. But anyway, I can lay my rifle across the bar on the front of the stand with the battery tray up. I get nervous that I'm going to drop the battery cap. It hasn't happened yet, but I'll use one hand to loosen it, keep an extra hand on it. I'll get that battery cap and I stuff it in a pocket real quick so I don't drop it. I pull the spent battery out, take a new one, slide it in, and then we're good to go. As far as any kind of indication, I was nervous at first that, that battery gets down to that final bar. Yeah, am I going to have, this Boone and Crockett atypical drop time walkout? I'm lining up the shot and the optic dies. What then? It gives you a warning, 20% battery life remaining. I would just go ahead and change it out then. There's been a lot of times I've been proactive and I've just gone ahead and changed the battery out at that last bar just because I know I'm going to sit for another a few hours. I may as well change the battery out. So what I normally end up coming out on my second battery, so that gives me an extra battery if I decide to sit longer, or obviously the more you have it on and not in standby mode, the more battery you're going to use. Sometimes, it's harder to see through that brush if it's a doe or buck or whatever. So I do turn it on and crank that magnification up. It's like, oh, it's your lucky day. We don't get very many doe days here, which is crazy. We get 10 doe tag and 2 buck, and they give us 7 doe days for the entire season in my county. South Georgia is wide open, either sex, all season long. Not us, but that's okay. It's honestly all of the hesitation that I had about going in the woods with what I perceive to be something delicate was a non-issue. It just keeps on trucking. It's been, like I said, there's no real cons in my opinion. The only cons are more just considerations. You got to bring batteries. You don't have to do that with a normal scope. The weight's heavier. You don't have that much weight with a normal scope, but you also can't see in the dark. You don't have thermal. I don't know of anybody doing a ballistic calculator. Actually, let me throw in this picture. This was 5 different 300 blackout loads, and all I did was change the bullet weight in the app. That's it. I didn't even go down the rabbit hole of ballistic coefficient. I told it what it was sighted in with, and then I punched in the different bullet weights. Everything from 110 grain to 220 grain. And those were different. Each bullet weight was its own group going down that IDPA target. That's easy. If I can figure something like that out, chances are you can. Because I'm not the tech guy. This was extremely easy to use. So I did almost forget to mention, this is your thermal sensor right here. It came with a rubber ring that goes around it, and then just a press fit cap, kind of like your Type-C port over here. And I would cover it up. I mean, I've got some dust accumulation here on the rangefinder, IR illuminator, and day and night module. The thermal is obviously a little bit cleaner because I typically would have that cap on, you know, walking through the woods or when I'd get home and store it. I was hunting Rich Mountain WMA. You can look it up. Very steep. I think it was at 3,600 feet elevation. I was coming out, headed down a steep hill. I'd been doing pretty good. I hadn't lost my balance, had my rifle slung, and I guess I stepped on some rotted branch underneath the leaves, and I slipped and fell. And when I did, I didn't realize it at the time, that little cap came off. So the optic's been fine, didn't lose zero, no damage to it. I just lost a piece of it. So if DNT wants me to send this back, it's coming back a little bit light. So I've been long-winded enough. I hope you've gotten something useful out of this. I'm just ecstatic. Not only has it been extremely fun reviewing something hunting related out in the woods. It's my happy place. I like being out there, being able to put it through its paces in a variety of environments. It's been warm, it's been cold, it's been snowing, it's been raining. It's truly been put through its paces, at least as many paces as I can put it through in North Georgia in terms of outdoor exposure. I've used it and put a fantastic shot on a deer. Granted, it was only 67 yards, and still the deer didn't suffer. It went down quick. I did it with a hand-loaded projectile. I used 165 grain Hornady Interlock soft point over, I don't remember the powder charge off the top of my head, Hodgdon Lil Gun powder, and it performed great. I didn't get to recover the bullet because it did pass through, but it dropped the deer quick. I have that in video format, which is awesome. So the long and short of it is, folks, if you want an optic that will do daytime, nighttime, and thermal, DNT, the ThermNight may be the perfect optic for you. They run about $1,000 right now on sale, I think. You can catch sales on their store. I will drop a link down in the description. It is an affiliate link, so if you click it, it does help me out. Be honest with you guys, even if it was not an affiliate link, I'd still be recommending them. I've been very impressed with them. I've been impressed with having my questions answered, even as just, you know, the guy that's reviewing it, not somebody that's actually giving them money. They've been very quick to get back to me and walk me through stuff. Like I said, though, it was pretty intuitive. It was easy for me to just kind of pick it up, and the few questions I had were easily answered. And if you're even slightly experienced in the thermal and night vision world, it'll probably come more natural to you than it did for me. So right now we're using the onboard recording feature. We're just looking downrange. So right now you're going to say, wow, that clarity is not so great, right? We can adjust the focus. I purposely put it out of focus. We can bring that in, and we can zoom in downrange, and you can play with that focus some more and get it where you want it. And it really is a versatile scope. It's got a lot of cool features. So you can see that picture in picture. Right now we've got it on the thermal mode. We can go ahead and swap over and reverse it, and now we can play with the thermal focus and find its sweet spot. We can zoom in with the thermal. And that's what I was talking about there with the some targets will give you a heat signature, so we're getting the black part of the B8 showing up hotter down there, and I think that's really cool. The other thing I wanted to bring up, you have a couple icons in the top right corner. You got your battery life, your microphone, so it should be picking up audio, the Wi-Fi, which is how you connect it to your phone. I normally have that off. You can do remote viewing from your phone as long as it's fairly close to the scope, so you could have someone else observing. Now you'll notice there's a difference between the crosshairs on the thermal and the crosshairs on the daytime. They do need to be zeroed independently. You can also see your zoom or magnification indicator range. So we're at 5. This is the basic for the nighttime and daytime. It goes all the way up to 20. And then on thermal, it is 3 to 12. So we're all the way zoomed in. Now we're all the way zoomed out. But you can see even those steel silhouettes are showing up with a heat signature. This can be useful for finding stuff. Those barrels are hot over there. So that is very cool as well. Now, you do have your rangefinder, like I said, which is neat. We're going to go ahead and rangefind this. 50 yards. You can see it there in the thermal, which is good. This is a 50-yard range. Let's see if we can get this guy here. 55 yards. Then it is back from that one. Let's see if we go to the berm itself. 57 yards. And that's a neat feature. So if we go into the settings, there's a few things you can see here. We have our screen brightness. That's connections. It's for your Wi-Fi. Zeroing, it's pretty easy. You take a shot, freeze frame, and move your reticle to your hole. You can toggle your picture-in-picture. You have your ballistic calculator here. You also have a ballistic calculator on the app. The app's easier to use, in my opinion. Image enhancement. We got thermal image settings. Recoil, you can set it up for recoil activated. I've got it on manual. Audio recording on or off. Function settings. You can do all that through here. It's not bad. I find it pretty intuitive to use. If we press and hold this, it's going to take us into night mode. I'm not sure. Yeah, see, it's still daytime. We'll have to do another clip, or I'll roll one in of the clarity at night. It is really impressive. And then with the press of a button, you can go back to day mode. It really is an awesome, awesome optic. So I want to close this out by saying thank you to DNT Optics for sending this out for me to review. Thank you for being a part of my first successful whitetail hunt. I honestly have no problem recommending them. I think their ThermNight is the perfect optic for somebody that wants to do a little bit of thermal, a little bit of nighttime, and come out here and do daytime shooting too. It honestly has been super easy to use. I've not felt like I've given anything up in terms of shooting. Like I said, I had a 1 to 6x low power variable. Yes, now my base magnification is 5x. That's been fine. It's not been a big hassle having that on there. Indeed, I actually like the extra capabilities. So stay tuned. I plan on trying to hunt some coyotes with it here soon. I do want to give a shout out to my Patreon and channel member folks. Oh, nice new snazzy microphones. That was with y'all's help, so I appreciate that. There's links in the description if you're interested in doing Patreon or channel members. Patreon gets their own post over on Patreon. Channel members get early access to videos here before they go live. So it's never something you have to do. I'll just throw that out there if you're interested. All right, guys, stay safe. If you're hunting, stay extra safe. Always let people know where you are. If you're in a tree stand, make sure you put your harness on. Over Thanksgiving weekend, I heard about 2 hunters that lost their life. One fell out of a tree stand and passed away. The other passed away due to carbon monoxide poisoning in his hunting cabin. So always take your safety seriously, especially getting up in a tree stand. Wear your harness. Make sure you understand what you're doing, tying off to the tree. Check your equipment. Don't leave stuff out there for it to rust and all that good stuff. And carbon monoxide monitors anytime you're doing any kind of propane or wood heating. Just a good idea in general. They're not that expensive and could have kept 2 families from experiencing tragedy over the weekend. Just a little bit more mindful on safety. So that's all I'll say about that. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.